Public meeting of the City of Tallahassee Independent Ethics Board is now called to order at 4:01 p.m. on Tuesday, December 17th, 2024. The board members are present here at the Tallahassee Room in City Hall, along with members of the public. With the assistance of the Communications Department and the Information Technology Department, this meeting is streamed on the Ethics Board's website, and we are recording it for future reference. There is a delay with online communications, and we should all be patient. As always, we thank those members of the City of Tallahassee for their support. For those attending the meeting online, please make sure your microphone is muted. We ask the public to email ethics@talgov.com if they wish to speak online on agenda or non-agenda items. Those who have submitted their names will be allowed to speak as scheduled. While the meeting is in progress, please do not speak during the board's discussion. We have set aside 2 places on the agenda for the public to speak. For those who wish to make a public comment, please complete a speaker request form and forward it to Administrative Specialist Ms. Tasker Leverson. Be sure to state what you wish to speak about on the form. Public speakers will be given up to 3 minutes in accordance with the board's bylaws. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, now we'll have the roll call, please.
Kirsten Costa,
Here.
Patrick Kelly,
Here.
Carlos Ray,
Present.
Rita Calhoun, Adam Commissar,
Here.
Brian Smith, Caroline Kalanke.
Here.
Madam Chair, we have a quorum.
Great, thank you very much. Next, we will have approval of the minutes. Has everyone had a chance to look at them?
Yes.
Any concerns or questions?
No. Make a motion to approve the minutes. Second.
Mr. Ray makes a motion and Mr. Kelly seconds to approve the minutes. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion passes. Next, do we have any public comment on agenda items? No. All right. So then next we have our election. We're moving right along.
Oh, that's right.
Okay.
So I guess I'm going to conduct the election. So at this point, if we could just have a nomination, if anybody has a choice on who they would like to serve as.
I'd like to nominate Kristen Costa to continue to serve as our chairperson. Second the motion.
Do you accept that?
Okay.
Are there any other nominations? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations. And then for the position of vice chair, do we have any nominations for the position of vice chair?
I'd like to nominate Mr. Kelly as vice chair.
Second.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do you accept?
I do.
All right. Okay, any other nominations? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations. All
Never
right.
thought I'd say I do again. But my wife's not watching.
All right. Next, at this time, we want to recognize Attorney Carlos Ray for his contribution to the Tallahassee Independent Ethics Board from January 2019 to the present. We will open the floor a little bit differently. Are there any public comments or staff comments?
I have a public comment. I have longer remarks, which I'll give at the end. Of course, my name is Peter Butzine, and I represent Citizens for Ethics Reform. We want to thank Carlos for his outstanding leadership in the last few years. I realize he came in probably just before COVID, and we all know where we were during COVID and what we had to go through with that. And so we really appreciate your leadership. And also, I want to personally welcome Caroline Kalanke. I hope you all know that she is one of the experts in Florida in the area of ethics and Chapter 112, and we look forward to working.
I would first like to say thank you, Mr. Ray, for paving the way for the chair and for all you have done. You definitely led us in a time when we worked hard, as Mr. Payne was there too, and we worked hard to get some things recognized and noticed. And not only did they come to fruition as well as they could have, but I really appreciate your hard work and efforts on that. And you've served the board extremely well. Thank you.
I've had the fortune of working with Carlos, both with the Attorney General's office and also on this board. And I can tell you, he carries himself with dignity and honor and always does a professional job at whatever he's doing. It's a real pleasure to work with a man who has high ethical standards in his personal life as well as professional life. And I really enjoyed working with Carlos.
I'd like to thank Mr. Ray as well for his time on this, and it reminds me of when Mr. Payne left, that it seems as the people are leaving, it's kind of the institutional members that we all look to for good understanding of what this is about and what we're doing. So in the same way, I hope this isn't the last we see of you, in the way we still occasionally get to see Mr. Payne.
This is my turn. Thanks. No, it's been, I mean, I've known you for quite some time, way back when you were at the Department of State. We crossed paths and then I didn't see you for years. And then when you came in to apply, I said, that guy looks very familiar. And I'm really glad that you did come back and be a part of this group, because you were so valuable. One, the fact that you were able, as busy as you are, drop everything every Friday and meet with us knuckleheads was great. And we talked business and had a little fun as well. And I do definitely hope that we see you again, because you really were such a huge influence on everything we've done, from the drafting of most of the local ethics code that we did back in the beginning of your term. And we still have a ways to go. So thank you so much. We really do appreciate everything you've done.
It's Brian.
Mr. Smith?
Hey, how are you all doing today? I'm sorry I couldn't be there. Carlos, it's been a pleasure working with you. I would say the class and the professionalism sticks out the most for me. I like carrying yourself, and then on occasion we could see the passion that you displayed or expressed about certain issues that we had to address. So it's been a pleasure. I remember a couple of times you would have your daughter with you, and I would be watching you in your fatherhood mode, and then come in transition to the ethics board member, and it was a pleasure watching you. So I enjoyed serving with you. So thank you for all that you did.
Thank you.
And for me, it's been great. I will miss you. It's been fun. You are the ultimate professional, and you know when to speak softly, and you know when to speak loudly, and you know when to temper it. when you feel like squashing like a roach, and you say, "I'm going to hold back," and you do all of that well. I appreciate your leadership. We face challenges, and you had to go before the city commission, and you've done all of that well. I wish you well in your future endeavors. I hope this isn't the end of your public service. I think even this experience should help you as you move forward and have a vision of what government should be and how we should serve people. Because I think that this board is a lot of that. So I appreciate your temperance when you were in our weekly meeting. John and I were in our most serious moments, and you know how we get the work done. And now Chris, we get the work done, and that we enjoy what we do. So I've enjoyed working with you. There were times when you had to drop everything and come over. Whatever we asked, you did, and so I appreciate that.
Can I take a few moments to say?
Not yet.
Not yet? Oh.
Not yet. Madam Chair, this is a resolution, and I'll hand it to you in a minute to sign, provided everybody approves it. And I thank John for writing it. I only slightly edited, but John did the work. And it says, Declaration of Appreciation for Carlos A. Ray, Resolution Number 2024-01, a resolution of the City of Tallahassee Independent Ethics Board recognizing Carlos A. Ray for his exemplary service as a member and chair of the board and honoring his contributions to promoting ethics and integrity in local government. Whereas Carlos A. Ray has faithfully served the City of Tallahassee Independent Ethics Board with distinction, dedicating 2 terms as an at-large member appointed by the board. And whereas Mr. Ray was elected chair of the board for 3 terms, during which he provided steadfast leadership and demonstrated a commitment to upholding the board's mission of promoting accountability and public trust in city government. And whereas, as a distinguished attorney and current general counsel to the Florida Senate, Mr. Ray brought a wealth of legal expertise and insight to the board's deliberations and initiatives, ensuring that its decisions were well-informed and grounded in the law. And whereas Mr. Ray played an instrumental role in the development of the current Tallahassee Ethics Code, establishing a solid foundation for ethical governance and public confidence. And whereas Mr. Ray's commitment to public service and his unwavering dedication to the principles of ethical governance have set a high standard for the board and have made a lasting impact on the City of Tallahassee. And whereas Mr. Ray's term of service is concluding and the board wishes to recognize and express its gratitude for his exemplary contributions. Now therefore, be it resolved by the City of Tallahassee Independent Ethics Board as follows. Recognition and appreciation. The City of Tallahassee Independent Ethics Board hereby recognizes Carlos A. Ray for his years of distinguished service and leadership as a member of the chair of the board. Honoring contributions. The board acknowledges and commends Mr. Ray's dedication to fostering a culture of ethics and accountability in local government, as well as his instrumental role in shaping the current Tallahassee Ethics Code, which will serve as a lasting legacy of his commitment to ethical governance. Expression of gratitude. The board expresses its deepest gratitude. I'm glad it doesn't say sympathy. Deepest gratitude to Mr. Ray for his significant contributions and extends its best wishes for his future endeavors. Madam Chair, I recommend that the board approve this this resolution and present it with your signature.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. I think we can all say with unanimous acclamation that this resolution be signed, but all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'm not even gonna say it then.
Not yet.
Okay.
Almost. Yes. You can give him the resolution and the thing in that box and the thing in that other box. Oh, that's him.
Okay, so first we have your resolution.
You can open this.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Very nice. Oh,
With
the color of
fingers
truth.
all over it. Okay. When you're ready.
thank you.
Let me read.
Oh.
Let me read
Go
that.
for it.
And then we'll give it back.
Oh.
Presented to Carlos Ray in appreciation for your unwavering commitment and dedication to the Tallahassee Independent Ethics Board, 2019 to 2024. You can touch it.
Well, thank you.
And then we have it in all-
And we didn't want to do anything.
Carlos, can you hold that?
Sure.
That diamond up? Have the director and
Just
the
stand up here.
current chair next to you there. Director. Come on.
All right.
He doesn't like pictures. One more. Say cheese, Dwight. There you go. Very good. All right, well. Very cool. Thank you.
Drink your cafe con leche.
Every morning, yeah.
Now you can speak.
Now I can speak. No, first of all, thank you all for this recognition. It's really appreciated. I remember I used to tell my mom I wanted to get in politics, and she said, "Why?" For the old and corrupt. And I always reminded her there was that mentality that kept all the young professionals out of politics, and we ended up here because when the time came, no one stood up in a time of crisis in our country of Cuba. When I applied for this job, there was 18 applicants or more to apply for this spot. Today we have 2 to fill the spot. I think it's a testament of the work that the staff has done to change the mindset of the city, to instill some confidence in the commission and our governance here. When people are running to fill the commission seats to fund for office and commission is no longer, eliminating corruption. It's more of just personal attacks and not talking about the governance of the city. I think it's been a great work. I had an honor serving with Mr. Smith during that transition of COVID, when we actually transitioned not only that time period, but also transitioning our director, executive director here. Your steadfastness has really instilled confidence in what this board can and will do in the future. John, as well, as always, I was looking forward to our calls on Fridays. I still have PTSD on 12 o'clock. I have a twitch and I feel like I'm missing a call. But yeah, keep in mind, when I came on this board, this board had coverage over like just elected officials. Our jurisdiction expanded due to the hard work of Mr. Herring and Mr. Smith as well. When we recommended our ordinance the first time, we were just mere spectators in that process. We sat in the audience to watch what the city was doing. Today, we're actually invited to be part of the discussion. That's a huge leap there. It just shows you the confidence they have in what we do here on the board. I remember when I met with the Mr. Butzin and his group, when I first became chair, I said, if I can issue more advisory opinions than complaints, then I think I'm doing a good job. And that's the goal here. Make us a resource, not simply, people don't see us simply as a way to exert punishment, but actually to give direction. When I give my training to the senators on ethics, I say, treat our general counsel's office as GPS. Before you take off, ask for directions, because once you hit the ditch, we can't help you out there. And that's what we're here for. We're the GPS of the city. Ask us before you take actions, and we'll be more happy to direct you. And as you see, our advisory opinions increase every year. And if the complaints go in the opposite direction, I think that's a testament to your training, the mindset you put in the city. And I thank the opportunity I was given here. I thank Mr. Payne for being part of that board that got me elected onto this position, and this board for having confidence in my leadership for those 3 years. Thank you.
This one statement, this was from Richard Herring. He couldn't be here. He really wanted to. Says, congratulations on surviving 2 full terms of the board. Only Richard. You've done a great job of threading the needle and leading in some challenging times. The chair and members of the board are often caught in no man's land and have to fight for every win. You pull some rabbits out of the ethics hat, and that deserves respect. And these last words, I think we will all say, he said, I wish you the best. Okay.
All right, now we are on to our ethics office report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. During this period, we revised the ethics course for new employees. We went from having 2 hours to having an hour to deliberate. So we made some revisions to make that work. Conducted ethics training for firefighters, delivered online training for newly elected officials, delivered an online course to elected officials on government in the sunshine, and that's still going on. Attended the Council on Government Ethics Laws Annual Conference, COGL, held meetings with the chair and a separate meeting with the vice chair, performed administrative duties. We prepared for this meeting, responded to ethics complaints, and made referral. The staff also scheduled and prepped the board chair and vice chair for the appearance before the city commission to present the 2024 annual report. And then you have the itemized expenses from the previous month. Originally, we sent out the wrong numbers and we resent it. So what you have here are the numbers for the previous month. The Gandy printers was, we printed 100 copies of the annual report. Then usual city sale and legal services. Pointing to the budget. We start the fiscal year with 463,000. We're now at 399. So we're still at 400,000 and doing well with our budget. We didn't have any ethics complaints to report. We had a few referrals as given, and I won't summarize those, but I'll ask any questions if you have them. And there's nothing to vote on, but that completes our
General update.
general update. Okay. And if you're looking on number 9, outside employment, we're supposed to report outside employment. I created an LLC that definitely won't be in conflict with this because it's doing music and entertainment, which is in my house. You cannot reside in my house if you don't do music. As most of you know, my wife does. My wife has her own orchestra, which is a feat within itself. And my son is a 6-time Grammy nominee, and he and I are producing music together. With right now with a little known artist in Tallahassee who's very talented and very humble. I hope to release that music sometime next year. And it's Christian music, so you don't have to worry. I'm not going to get into the deep raw stuff. It was all in line with who I am, so that won't change. But I needed to present this to you. This is the form that I have to fill out for the city in keeping with their policy. And Tasha has approved it, so if you don't agree with that, we need to know so she can go in there and change it. But the way things work, she approves my timesheet and I approve hers. So she does this, but she's doing this on behalf of the board. So this is your opportunity to tell me I need to stick to my day job.
I just thought you were more of a heavy metal kind of guy.
That's all.
Big shirt bands, you know.
And I like Aldrich. I'm gonna start calling you Aldrich.
Yeah, that was my father's middle name, so. Yeah. And that caused me, and John will talk about, he doesn't know it yet, but John's gonna talk about the conference, but that caused me, I'm walking in the airport to get on the plane, and John thinks he's talking to me, and he turns around, he's talking to a stranger, because they sent me back, because then the name on my ticket and the name in the system were 2 different names, because I didn't spell out my middle name, so that's it. But Madam Chair, you don't necessarily have to vote, but if you all okay.
Yeah, does
Sounds good to
everyone-
me.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Now, John, if you will, and I'm asking John to do it because this is the first time going to the conference. Do you need to?
I think I can wing it.
All right, I think you can too.
So last week we went to COGL, I may need help, the Council on Governmental Ethics Laws, I think, yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so I think your third time, my first time, it was an exceptional event. We had ethics officers, inspector generals, elected officials, board members from all over the country, Canada, I actually sat next to an ethics officer from South Africa, which I was surprised. Somebody went that far, all the way to Los Angeles from South Africa, but that just shows that it's a very respectable organization. We were celebrating our 50th year anniversary, reminding us that this kind of came about in the wake of Watergate and this renewed interest in good government all across the country. As kind of a special treat, they brought in John Dean, former White House counsel from the Watergate years, to be a speaker at our luncheon, and he did a phenomenal job. And heard from the mayor, the Secretary of State of California, and just it was just a very good event. A lot of different workshops dealing with not just ethics, but also campaign finance, since a lot of boards around the country, they also do campaign finance issues as well. A little bit of lobbying. Went to one, I thought it was one topic, but it ended up being more about maintaining a database for lobbyists and keeping that straight. But it was still very, very informative. And they had usually panels of about 4 to 5 people. They were all from different parts of the country. You could have somebody from, I think we had well, the most interesting one is we had a woman from Arkansas or Tennessee and a guy from Massachusetts who met 10 years ago at Kogel and now are married. And they have a long distance marriage, but apparently it works. And, but it was very, very cool to hear them talk and give their perspectives. And we had a guy from Alabama who was the state commission on ethics person. Really got emotional. It was kind of took everybody back, but it just showed that the people that were there really cared about this issue and really were leaving it all on the field. And it was great. We were joined by members of the Florida Commission on Ethics. We had the executive director, the general counsel and deputy executive director, and the chief administrator. We had the executive director from the Naples Commission on Ethics, one of the advocates from Miami-Dade, and then the two of us. So Florida had a good showing at the conference, and the next one will be in Atlanta, so it'll be a lot closer. So maybe more people could attend. So, but it was a very good event. I'm glad Dwight forced me to go.
Now, he's not telling the real story, because the real story is that I waited too late to ask him to go. So his hotel, me being, sometimes I go too far trying to be frugal. Like the hotel, the parking fee was $60. So to keep him from paying the parking fee, I had him Uber back and forth. And I should have just paid $60, I see that now, but
It was cheaper to Uber.
yeah, it was, but we didn't have to do that. And but he did that, and he stayed in the hood. He heard gunshots. When he asked the lady, could he walk to the hotel, she said, "You can do it during the day, but I wouldn't do it at night." That's kind of where he was. And so but he was okay. We got to go to the Grammy Museum as part of the conference, and that was enjoyable. We also went bowling, and that was enjoyable. I found out I could actually get down and come back up with the ball. So that was important. But we had a good time. And I wanted him to go because I wanted him to see the broad spectrum of how people approach ethics. And it's not just our ethics code. Some things that we talked about, about lobbyists and issues with lobbyists. They talked about the definition of lobbying, just like we do here. A lot of issues that we discuss, they're still discussing there. So it is quite informative. And I use it for education and not just to go be with peers. I go there to learn from other people. But I think we had a great time. We're looking to go in Atlanta. If you haven't noticed, I'm trying to elevate Tasker's position, and I'll talk about what she did while we were gone. But I'm planning on taking her next time, and John, because we can drive up for same amount of money or less. And my kids are there, so I can even stay with them if I want to. But I'm looking forward to that, and we have a good relationship with the people in Atlanta already. We spend a lot of time with them. So I'm looking forward with that. On the day we're supposed to be flying back, there was a training session. I could not do it. I talked to John and I talked to Kristen, and we both agreed that she could do it. So all I had to do was get her to agree she could do it. And at the same time, we were changing the training because it had to be an hour, and we usually did 2 hours. And unfortunately, we had to take out social media. So I admonished the city to address that elsewhere since we didn't address it. So Tasker and I spent 2 or 3 weeks redoing the training, and we totally redid it, revamped it. I told her, don't go in and don't tell people it's her first time because they won't know the difference. She went in, she did excellent. Immediately got feedback from HR, and they were very specific, saying that she had command of the room. She showed confidence. She knew what she was talking about. So it was the feedback was very specific. So I was very proud of that. I was proud of the fact that I trained her. No, I'm just kidding. Just messing with her. No, I was proud of the fact she did a great job. And we had something on the calendar we overlooked. There was actually another class the next day. So she found out that day, and she had to do the class the next day.
What are we talking about, bro?
So,
Oh shit.
so she did the training the next day. Yes, we did hear you. And we heard that last part too.
Yeah.
So she did the training the next day also. So I'm looking forward to her doing more training in the future. So
Great job.
that thing also, because we weren't there, we couldn't present the annual report to the city commissioner. So I'm grateful to the chair and vice chair for going and giving the presentation. And that went very well. There was one question, and honestly, what was the question? I forgot what it was.
It was whether or not the campaign
Contribution.
Yeah,
contribution.
there was a question about the campaign contribution that city attorney said she looked to. City treasurer had already answered it. There was concern that it might be illegal, but that was a misinterpretation. There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, there are things wrong with the structure, and it's not going to go very well with the structure, looking at how it succeeds in other places, but there's nothing illegal about it. So that's been responded to. But the presentation went very well. I was very proud and very happy, and you all should be also. So
I was there and she was fantastic. Everybody has their own opinion on who the greatest orator of all time is. I happen to be a fan of Frederick Douglass, and she didn't quite reach that level. But she was really good. I was proud of her sitting in the back.
No, she's a good chair. And that completes the general update, Madam Chair.
All right. But next we have the advisory opinion.
Yes. So this is, we returned with the advisory opinion from last month. We had a few pages. Again, thank you to Ms. Clanky for, but she provided some very good insights that allowed us to kind of dive into the state issues at the end. But let me go ahead and just in order. The first part, misuse of public position, or just to go back, this is an individual worked within a department, was approached by a third party to assist with, I guess, drafting or responding to a request for proposal to receive some funds from the recreation department. And this individual did not work in that department and have an interaction with that department. Wanted to know whether it would violate our local ethics code if they worked as an independent contractor with this organization. Prior to our last meeting, the individual had abandoned those efforts, but we continued with the opinion. We would just provide some clarity and to put it in the record so other people could follow it as precedent going down the road. So the first issue was misuse of public position based on the facts as they were presented to us. As I said, she had no interaction, or he had no interaction with the department, had no part putting together the RFP or the specs of the RFP. and would have no interaction with anybody within that department. So under the misuse of public position, we find based on those facts, there would be no violation. Second was the disclosure or use of non-public information. This is an issue we talked a little bit at the last meeting. We had gone back to the city commission to do a cleanup of 2-17 because there was a scrivener's error. And instead of fixing the error, they made the ordinance less stringent than the statute, which we are technically not supposed to do. We are supposed to be more stringent. So that is something I know we've been talking about a couple of years. At the time it happened, we kind of said, okay, we'll have to go back and revisit it at some point, and this may be the right time to do that. But here, this individual is not a covered individual as defined by our local ordinance. Therefore, disclosing or using non-public information would not violate our local ethics code. So we put in there that because of the way our ordinance is written, it would not be a violation of the local code. It would, however, be a violation of the state code. And so we do put that in number 2, that just because you're in the clear with us doesn't mean you don't have another issue at the state. And another reason why I think we probably do need to go back and fix the ordinance. Question number 3 is the issue that Ms. Clanky contributed toward, and this deals with doing business with one's agency or a conflicting contractual relationship. We talked about that last time. We talked about exceptions or the exemptions that are in subsection 12 of 112.313. Ms. Clank at the last meeting also said that there could be a way to distinguish what is technically the same agency or a separate agency. There are some citations here from state opinions where they talk about, when you could be with the city, but be with a different department, and you would technically be considered a separate agency for purposes of doing business with and conflicting contractual relationship. The issue that I think we talked a little bit last time was the issue of whether the sealed competitive bidding process would be applicable here or not. And I think we had mentioned last time, there were a series of opinions that said RFPs did fall under that exemption. In 1989, they then receded from that position and said, well, an RFP would not apply. We went back and looked, and we did discuss this quite extensively with the general counsel for the state commission, as well as the deputy counsel. And it was their position that the 89 opinion didn't necessarily go into whether it was a sealed RFP or whether it was an open RFP. And I think everybody agrees that if it's open, you clearly aren't going to meet this requirement. If it's sealed, I don't think we necessarily know. So two issues we put here were, one, we're not issuing an opinion on state law because that's not something we do. We simply just put this here so we don't create a false sense of security for someone who's requesting an opinion to say, oh, you're in the clear with us, but we want to alert them to the fact that there are further pitfalls at the state level. We also do state here that this may be an issue that could be explored through an opinion by the state commission. Now, unfortunately, the statute does not allow the state commission to issue advisory opinions unless there is a pending issue. So, as opposed to us where we don't have that restriction. Because this individual had decided not to move forward with the project, the state commission lost jurisdiction on doing an advisory opinion. So we'll just have to wait and see, I guess, somewhere down the road. But we do put here at some point, if the stars were to align and these certain facts were to return to us, it would be wise to rush to the state while it was still within its jurisdiction to see if they could clarify on the sealed RFP versus the open RFP, and to see if there's any, if they could distinguish in the exemption in that regard. And the issue that, and the reason I think it needs to be evaluated is that in the exemption, it states that, where is it? I'm gonna read it. I got it correct. I may have just dropped it right into the language, but essentially says that it's a sealed competitive bidding process where the award goes to the lowest or best bidder. And the language that really wrapped me into knots was the or best. Because if you go to the procurement statute, which is 287.057, it lists the three, it lists invitation to bid, request for proposal, and invitation to negotiate. Invitation to negotiate is very open. You're essentially just saying, come to the table, let's talk. That clearly is never going to be sealed, so that would never apply. So that's not addressed here. The invitation to bid is required to go to the lowest bidder. The exemption says lowest or best. So I kept saying, well, if it's or best, how is that only invitation to bid? Is there another scenario that's outside of that that isn't just a generic RFP that would apply? And as when I posed that to our state counterparts, they didn't really have an answer. They said, we've never actually considered those two words as it's in the exemption. So in that regard, we are not required to opine on this issue, and I don't think we are authorized to do so or be appropriate to do so. However, I think it's important that we just make these points, and if the issue ever comes back to us in the future, I think we just run as fast as we can to the state commission and say, can we please get an opinion on this? And hopefully we lay out enough facts here and some of the questions so they can address those underlying issues. So that's all I have. If there's any, and then the last part, the potential lobbying requirements. I think last time we had an issue where it was a doing business with, Member Commissar asked if we could also put in some language to just remind people that there is a lobbying issue that you always need to be cognizant of as you move forward. And if you do talk to staff, you may fall into that term, and there are requirements under the ordinance if you do fall within the realm of being a lobbyist. So we do add that language, although it wasn't part of the request. We just put it in there just to make sure it's crystal clear. So that is it. Based on the facts as presented to us, we didn't see that this person would have violated the local code. They may have violated the state code, and if the issue were to come back, we would say, please go to the state commission for an opinion. So that's all. I would ask for your favorable approval.
Thank you, Ms. Reed, for your work on this, and thank you, Ms. Klinke, for your input as well. Any questions?
I just have one question. Or best. Is there any definition in there of what or best is? Or is that pretty subjective?
I think it's pretty subjective. No, I think the invitation to bid is lowest. The RFP is where you could go into the or best because you're allowed to consider other factors. Could they interpret the or best to mean somebody who responds to an invitation to bid who is responsive? You know, that's a possibility. So, I mean, I think there's a way they could still get it under the invitation to bid, or they may say, okay, well, it's gonna only go into this very narrow sliver of the RFPs, but it has to be completely sealed and closed. But again, that's an issue they'll have to deal with. Or the legislature could change it. So that's a possibility as well.
Any other questions?
So moved.
Okay. Mr. Kelly makes a motion and Mr. Ray seconds to approve this advisory opinion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, I forgot one thing on the applications that I mentioned. We are working on op-ed, Dallas Democrat, that's the best way to advertise, to make our case and ask people, the right people, kind of people to apply. So we're working on that now and almost finished. I'm trying to get it to the Democrat tomorrow, see if we can get it in the paper soon. And so we don't come back until February. So by then, we hope to have many more applications. See what we can do. If you know of people you'd like to recommend, tell them to contact treasury clerks and get their application. Yeah.
Any public comment on non-agenda items, task? No. Oh, Mr. Butzine.
I came a little late. But so again, I'm Peter Butzine. I'm here on behalf of Citizens for Ethics Reform, and I haven't presented comments for the last few months, and I want to explain myself because we've been waiting for the outcome of the city commission. And although we neither support nor oppose candidates, it's obvious that the current 2-3 split on most controversial issues has challenged the Independent Ethics Board's attempt to improve city ordinances relating to ethics and campaign finance. Specifically, this board has been stymied in its efforts to reform Tallahassee's notoriously inadequate lobby registration and disclosure ordinance. Nevertheless, we applaud you for continuing to recommend reforms under the 2014 Charter Amendment, and one of those provisions empowers this board to recommend proposed ordinances, resolutions, or charter amendments to the City Commission in all areas of ethics and corruption. During the last legislative session, we strongly opposed a bill that stripped the Florida Commission on Ethics and independent ethics boards, such as this one, with the power to initiate complaints and required that complainants be prohibited from filing complaints unless they have personal knowledge of an ethics violation. We believe that this bill that eventually became law eviscerates the 49-year experience in Florida with the successful enforcement of Chapter 112 that was created by the Sunshine Amendment back in 1976. It's also a big step backward that we envisioned when we proposed the 2014 Charter Amendment that created this board. We support efforts that we understand may provide opportunities to mitigate the worst aspects of this terrible law. And in the meantime, we remain very concerned that the 3-2 majority of the commissioners will continue to oppose popular constructive ethics and lobbying reforms, and this will make your job and ours more difficult. However, we're not going away. During the almost 60 years that I personally have worked on these issues, I've learned to accept the wins when possible, but use losses to inspire further reform. I have to be as optimistic as Theodore Parker, the 19th century Unitarian minister who originally penned the famous quote memorialized by the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King in 1964, "The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice." And all I can say in conclusion is that I think we all need to be creative in our approach to ethics in the next few years. There are many challenges, but we appreciate your rising to this challenge, and we will be there to support you. Thank you.
Additional comments?
No.
I don't think we had any additional directives today. Any others for Mr. Floyd or the staff?
Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Yes.
Make sure there's some goodies back there.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Yes, I was like, Mr. Ray. Motion, Mr. Commissar seconds. All those in favor? Aye, we are.